Hey, Super Mookers. Sorry for the delay. The world likes to throw challenges at us. So today we won. So we are on air. This is our second mystery interview. Woo!
I don't know why we do that.
I don't know either. We're just stupid. But anyway, this module we've been talking about the environment. And one of the books we read was The Massive, and we are lucky enough to have The Massive's writer, Brian Wood, here.
Yay!
Hi, Brian. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, we're really happy that you're here and taking part. And like I said, our module this month was environments. We read all sorts of things. We read Hawkeye #7. We read The Massive. We read something else. We read Hinterkind, and we read Swamp Thing, Animal Man, The Crossover, The Rot. So we've been trying to cover a lot of things here, and your book was one of our choices. So for the class, they should already know a little bit about you because you were on our little page. But Brian he's writing right now, he's writing X-Men. The adjectiveless X-Men, as we like to call it, with the all-female team. That's awesome.
Oh, that's super awesome.
The Massive, still ongoing. You're writing something else. Star Wars?
Star Wars, yep.
Just so awesome. I love it so much. It's such a good series. And what else are you writing right now?
That is it. I just finished up. I finished up Conan.
Yes.
Barbarian. Yeah, I'm sort of in that period where things are ending, and what's going to replace it has yet to be announced. So it looks like I'm lazy, but I'm not really. I'm working hard.
The ongoings is okay.
Yeah.
I think you're doing all right. So students, you can send your questions in. There's a Q&A bar on the side that Allie will be looking at. So the questions, please keep them to the environment, as we always do, as we try and keep the questions on the topic. None of the questions like...
there's tons of stuff I want to ask him about the X-Men.
How did you get your start in writing? What's the X-Men like? So, but we want only questions that have to do with the environment. So, my first I talk a lot too, so I'm sorry. My first question is, what kind of research did you have to do to prepare for The Massive?
Well, most of the research that I do generally is just reading books. I've never been one of those guys that tries to go out and into the field and interview types. I'm too much of a recluse, I think. And in the case of The Massive, I was trying to sort of I have a tendency to go overboard, buy too many books, over-research, to the point where it sort of gets, I don't want to say it's obsessive, but it's in that neighborhood. So in the case of The Massive, I really wanted to really think about, I created this world in the story, like this literal world, but I really wanted to be very smart about how I researched, and really sort of think and plan ahead and think, like, what do I need to know? What do I have to be accurate about? What can I fudge? What doesn't matter? So I'm not going down crazy research rabbit holes, which is my usual MO for these things. So yeah, I read a lot of books. I really make use of the library, and it's kind of all I do. If I'm not working, then I'm sleeping. And then I'm reading before I sleep. So.
Oh, well, there you go. That makes sense. We do a lot of that too.
Sleeping?
Well, no, just working.
Oh, yeah.
Not sleeping.
So, how much, what kind of research did you put into the actual potential for environmental catastrophes?
Of this project, and I said, you don't have to get all the science right. You'll drive yourself crazy if you try to get all the science right. Like, I'm no expert. There's only so much research I can reasonably do. So a lot of that quote science, or what I call comic book science, is really just sort of me winging it and writing something that sounds good, or what I glean from like a Wikipedia search. And a lot of the actual research I did, I sort of focused that on less on climate science, but more on how it impacts human beings. You know, so it's less about maybe undersea earthquakes and the science of that, but I looked at history and looked at examples in the past of if an undersea earthquake, let's say, caused a tsunami, and I sort of like looked at that and saw how it like affected human beings, and that's my sort of focus with this book. That's sort of where I've chosen to sort of direct my like focus or my like attention and research onto that aspect of it. And I really it's a little embarrassing, I'll say, because my sister-in-law is works at NOAA, that National Oceanic thing. She's a federal agent, and this is her life. This is sort of her. She literally goes out there and catches pirates. So it's always a little embarrassing because I'm sure I'm like driving her crazy, writing stuff that's not accurate. You know, but I gotta take it easy on myself.
Tell her it's comic book science.
Right.
That might relate to our next question.
Yeah,
actually.
so we have a question that Joe Music posted. He said, was there a single moment of inspiration for The Massive?
There's never just one thing. There's usually takes several things that sort of have to collide in my brain to make an idea. In this case, I was watching the Whale Wars show.
Yeah.
You know, the Sea Shepherd guys. And I think the Japanese Fukushima was still in the news or freshly happened, to use a weird phrase. And then in the not too distant past was the Deepwater Horizon rig fire and spill. So it was kind of all that, you know, and it's sort of like, you know, I always like pay attention to current events. And so I had a lot of this real world stuff happening, which was horrifying, and then the sort of cool visuals of that TV show, and you know, that all just kind of came together, and this was something I wanted to spend some time thinking about.
That's great. I'd have to tell you a comment from one of our TAs who had not read The Massive, but then read it and then ordered it every single issue, because he wanted the individual issues, not just the things. It was very cute.
That's cool.
He said, this book is awesome and deserves a lot of credit for basically being a pacifist look at the post-apocalypse and featuring a very diverse cast of characters. So, thumbs up.
Great. Thanks. That's exactly what I was going for. So.
Well, there you go. We had a couple comments from. What we do is we read it and then I ask a question on the Massive discussion board. And the question was, what does it mean to be an environmentalist after the world's already ended? And some of the comments were, an environmentalist, this was Wendy Whipple, an environmentalist would possibly have the knowledge needed to survive after the collapse, but in this case in particular, they won't be able to use that ship for long. Without processing facilities, where will the fuel come from? They will have to shift their focus from preserving the environment to eking out an existence. So how and fighting for those remaining resources. So how would you respond to that?
That's true. I mean, in the story so far, you know, they're able to find, you know, the fuel they need and the food and water they need because it's not been that long since the crash. But absolutely, at some point, you know, their ability to do what they're doing now, to be on that ship, is going to run out. It's a very minor spoiler. I don't actually get to that in the life of the story, so thankfully I have to deal with that. They pretty much stay on the ship for the whole time. But yeah, I mean, if you looked forward in time long enough, it's almost gonna, I mean, that's almost like another book in itself, or a sequel. Like that's sort of like de-evolving our need, or like our reliance on certain kinds of technology. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I fudge. Like they all still use like cell phones, a while, or things like that, which maybe might not be possible, in the story. But that it's definitely really cool to think about.
Yeah.
Kevin Gould makes a comment on with the new set of rules, all the characters have to work together with all these problems and troubles that keep piling on, and how intertwined some of the environmental systems are. Did you intentionally mean to show this type of interconnectivity with the environment?
The environment and the connectivity with what?
Like showing how intertwined some of these environmental systems are.
You mean like global environment, like the environment? Sorry. I sort of, I guess I did. I mean, I really wanted the story to literally not only take us around the world, but speak of the world as like a single entity. It's not just set in America. It's not just set here. It's the entire world. And after this crash, there's no such thing as like a, like all the borders are sort of like political messes now. There is no, separation of borders, or, cultures are bleeding into other things. Conflict is sort of mess of the old order of things. So I sort of, I mean, I guess I did, possibly not in exactly the way Kevin means, but I think I did. I tried.
Okay, so Jesper Larson made the comment that environmentalists probably, the whole idea of being an environmentalist would probably turn to a survivalist pretty fast. Being a pacifist is not going to help when the rest of the world is a violent nightmare.
Right.
So do you think that if something like this happened, it would turn into an everyone for themselves world?
Unfortunately, it probably would. That's sort of like, that's my favorite theme of this book is like this cast of characters I have, they all have past lives, which they've sort of left in the past to do what they're doing now. And their past lives are all rooted in conflict. There's like the child soldier and the guy that was a mercenary, and this idea that in this crash, they sort of keep, like their past keeps coming back to haunt them. They keep having to rely on their old skills, which really bothers some of them, because they're like, we don't, like, that's in our past. We've started over. We're like pacifists. We're trying to improve the world. But the way the world is now sort of drives them back into those bad habits and bad actions. And that's like a powerful theme of the story, and that's kind of what keeps me going. Like, that's my favorite part of it. And that's the question they ask themselves a lot in the beginning part of the series. It's like, like, how far do we push it? Like, how evil do we have to be? Like, one of them is like we have to act this way. We have to be aggressive, and others are trying to really cling to their ideals. But I really don't think you can really cling to pacifist ideals. If this were to happen and go on, which is a scary thing. That's the kind of thing that's that kind of fear that also helped drive a lot of the early planning of the series. Is like, I mean, I have a couple of small kids, and just knowing that their lives are going to be harder than mine in a lot of ways. It's a kind of a scary thing.
Oh.
I take everything for granted, you know.
Along those lines, so the what motivates the pirates? Is it greed, or is it need, or is it something else?
Well, I think I think it kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier about fuel and stuff. I feel like there's like a panic to hoard. I mean, if there's like a finite amount of fuel out there, or fresh water, which becomes a big part of the book, you know, very, very soon. It's sort of, I can definitely see like a real rush to sort of like lay their hands on as much valuable stuff as possible, and obviously what's valuable now is different than what it may have been before the crash, you know. So I mean, I can definitely see, you know, like water and fuel and food and everything becoming like a real commodity, something that someone would like kill you for, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, people almost killed people for Twinkies when Hostess said that they were going to quit making those.
That's true. And anybody that's been to San Diego on Wednesday night to the Comic Con trying to get a toy, yeah. Okay, well, Jeffrey Whitman made the comment that his first thought was an urge to say, "Told you so." But I think environmentalists will become the leaders of tomorrow. When people finally accept that the world needs help, they will look to the ones who have been helping all along. So, do you think environmentalists can save the planet?
I don't. That's the pessimist in me talking. I mean, I've done a decent amount of reading and research, and I pay attention to this stuff in the news, and it's so profoundly depressing that you can't even agree on what's already happened, much less what's going to happen in the future or what to do about it. It's such like a stupid reason that it's hard for me to imagine a path out of that. For like if you're talking about the current crop of politicians or whatever, the media, you know, that's like sort of like having this quote debate about it. That's one of the reasons I didn't put any of that into this book. Is like I wanted to start my story when that argument has become moot, you know, when we're like already past the whole is it gonna happen or not, because I just find it such a depressing and stupid thing to argue about, you know. It would be really nice to think that at some point in the future, like, people are going to recognize the role of science in this climate stuff and defer to them and actually ask them for like advice before things like, you know, policy is made or laws are passed. Again, that's the pessimistic part of me. That's like, it's never going to work out that way. We're all going to like die in a fire kind of thing, or, you know, the world's going to blow up. I would very much love to be proven wrong about that.
It is kind of sad. I like to think I'm an environmentalist, and we recycle, we turn off lights, all this, and then when I like fly into Los Angeles and I just look down and see like a gazillion lights on, and I think, really, is me turning off one light gonna help anything? And it really gets kind of depressing. So I understand that.
Yeah.
You talked politicians a little bit, and how do you see America as increasingly isolationist in today's world, environmentally or otherwise?
Well, it kind of depends on what you're talking about. Environmentally, I feel like it's something a lot of Americans just don't want to think about, obviously, for obvious reasons. They don't want to think about, they want to take their 20-minute shower and, run 5 air conditioners and do whatever and not have to worry about it. And then there are some that are like, but there are other countries worse than us that are bigger polluters. So like that's some kind of a point.
So Russell Pirazek, he said that this whole idea of what's happening in the massive must be one of the most heartbreaking things to experience. And when you know you're working incredibly hard to save a world that has already been destroyed, and to keep the last remnants of a fallen land from crumbling, knowing that you probably won't succeed, and it seems like a certain type of courage is necessary to keep doing that day after day after day, and not to give up. So what type of person do you think it would take to keep going in this type of environment?
In this type of environment in the book?
Impressive.
Okay. I think it takes somebody obviously who has a lot of personal conviction, but again, these characters are so they have their own personal kind of thing them. It's like if their mission is to save the world, there's practical things they can do, like impacts on the environment, but they're also trying to like sort of save themselves in the process. You know, all these characters come from violent pasts or unethical paths, and so they're saving the world, but they're trying to redeem themselves as well, and I feel like that's a lot of what keeps them going. Which is fine. I mean, I feel like if someone's going to overturn their life and devote their life to a cause, that requires like a source of power, a source of like, you know, sort of courage and energy and faith inside them, and that can come from like a lot of different things.
Jesse Needles said, the ones that with the knowledge to rebuild what was lost from the world will be trying to rebuild the world before it's actually lost. So this is kind of goes along the whole thing about zombie apocalypse, about everything, is that, you know, there's a joke about, you know, you may not like the hillbillies now, but they're going to rule with the zombie apocalypse. Why Daryl is like so big on the TV show. So do you think that's part of the reason why we have these like renegades that even though they're really that they've done bad things and they're trying to change their life, but do you think maybe that's why they're able to do some of the things that they do in the book?
Because of their pasts?
Yeah.
They're incredibly, they have, I mean, they're all older too. They're all like in their 40s and 50s, so they all have sort of, they've already had a lifetime of experience that they can apply to this. And you see in some of the more recent issues that they actually literally go back into their pasts and look up old partners or like an old safe house, old contacts, you know, to sort of, you know, keep the mission, keep the organization running, and you always like that because I'm sure on some level it drives them crazy to like. I mean, it's again, I feel like I keep saying the same thing over and over again. I'm sorry, but it's like that's the internal conflict, is they have to keep revisiting what they just don't want to think about anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny what you said about hillbillies, though. It's true. I mean, I feel like if you look at something like this, and if you take it to an extreme, I mean, everything just gets really small again. There's no more like of the global village, you know.
Yeah.
That's why in all those movies, there's like tiny pockets of you know, people group into tiny pockets, and everything gets very, very small again. Yeah. So the guy up in the mountains who's not connected to the grid, this is like and whatever, is going to be doing fine.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. I'm a trained archaeologist, and one of the things we always joked about is that if there is, you know, an environmental crisis like an apocalypse, that you want to hang out with archaeologists because we know how to start fires without matches. We know how to make tools. We know, we know a lot about, berries and things like that, which ones just because we're always out in the field. So it's kind of the same thing. It's, it's.
That's why you're my best friend.
Yeah.
That's why.
No offense to hillbillies, by the way, either. So.
Well, I grew up in rural Vermont, so I sort of, I grew up in the woods, but I also know the type. We call them rednecks there, but it's basically.
Oh yeah. Same thing.
Hillbillies. I think it depends on what part of the country you're from.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys: Do you guys have a bug out bag? Do you have like a survival bag?
Oh yeah. Yep.
That's one of the things that is a problem. We're getting ready to move, and we have to make sure that we had a shelter at the new house, because in our one we have a really great place to go downstairs. We call it our zombie shelter. We have food and flashlights and a little TV, although it wouldn't probably last. My daughter thinks I'm kind of a kook, but you never know. I got a crossbow for my birthday last year because that's the best weapon against zombies.
I was just gonna say my coach at my gym has like all this stuff in the gym, separate from his house, and he has a crossbow, and I was like, you're the second person now. I didn't think. I was surprised there was even one person I knew that.
I have a recurve.
Went there,
No, 3 now.
I have a recurve bow. It's not a crossbow, but it's a recurve.
It's close.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll count
It's
it.
arrows.
You just never know. You have to be prepared for all sorts of things, so we're prepared.
I don't have like a snorkel though, in case like it's a tsunami water world massive type thing.
I didn't think we should probably get those.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah.
You never know. We know who we have to protect because we know who's going to be the last one, Mark. So we'll protect him. So Danielle says about getting back to the massive environment, even though I could talk about zombies and crossbows all night. She said that in the book she figured that the ice caps would be gone already, and she'd expect some jellyfish to be taking over in the waters, so that other things. Does that just go back to the comic book science part?
Well, yeah. I have sharks. I don't have jellyfish, but I have sharks. I have a story about the sharks. A lot of the, I would agree with her. I sort of had it happen in a short time. Like it's a very sudden crash. And sort of everything happens like in less than a year. So my comic book science tells me that the ice caps wouldn't have melted yet. Although I might be wrong about that. I'm terrified of jellyfish. I don't think I could write a story about them.
Yeah, they're kind of scary.
They are scary.
Yeah.
They sting you and they're slimy.
Yeah.
Well, there's some stories about the ones that are like 100 feet long. Yeah. They can sting you all along the entire. That's not cool.
That's crazy. Oh. That and stingrays.
Yeah.
So I don't like stingrays anymore because of.
Is that because of Steve Irwin?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm still sad over Steve Irwin because he was awesome. Catherine Bartash says there'll always be an environment, whether it be a healthy one or not. It is the area around you. Like any environmentalist in that world, they're looking to make it a better place. Do you think that in the massive, they're working harder to make it a better place rather than the people that came before who should have worked harder to make it a better place?
I think they're trying really, really hard. And I think it's inherent in all of us to fall short, So I think they try. I think they might believe they are making it better. I don't think they are. They spend a lot of time in this series reacting to things and trying to get by and trying to survive whatever's happening at that point. And so sort of in the middle of the series, they kind of get it together a little bit and sort of try to be proactive, but in such a conflict with the way the world is now that it's a struggle. Like, they're not racking up victories one after the other. They're trying to figure it out. They're just as imperfect and flawed, you know, and as anybody else. I think the fact that they're trying, like, aware, I think probably sets them apart from most people out there, you know.
Do you think they started trying because they wanted to make things better, or they were just kind of thrown into it?
I think they started trying because they genuinely wanted to make things better, and they wanted to be better humans, you know. Now in the series, like, I'm thinking where I'm writing now, and they're just, like, so messed up with their, like, personal dramas and their failures, and or try as they might, the world just, like, isn't cooperating. Events are happening too fast, you know. They're just like a tiny boat out in the middle of the ocean. So I mean, but I think intention counts for a lot.
So
you know?
we have. I'm going to kind of change topics here. I know there's a question that he wants to ask about X-Men. Was Mohawk Storm your idea, or was it?
What a very good question.
That's a more complicated answer than you might think. When I was writing the Ultimate X-Men book, I brought the Mohawk Storm back there.
I realize this.
Sam Humphries brought the Mohawk Storm back in the regular universe, and so he gets all the credit. It was me.
I'm happy. Okay.
All right. So, Free Comic Book Day. Are you going to be anywhere?
I am not. I'm not. Not this year.
Okay. Well, then
I
next
should
year.
be. I don't know. I have no excuse for that.
Next year you can come here at Alter Ego Comics.
Okay. All right.
See, we already have a guest for next year.
That's awesome.
Done. So, anything you need to? We're going to kind of wrap up here because we've taken plenty of your time. Is there anything that you're working on you want to plug, or anything cons you're going to be attending?
I'm going to be at that New York Comic-Con, that special edition summer thing they're doing.
The 2-day one?
Yeah, the one that's in June, I think. I'll be there. And like I said at the beginning, I have a lot of things cooking, but they're so nothing I can say.
Nothing you can say. How much longer are you going to do the Star Wars?
I'm already done. My last issue was issue 20. I think what just came out? 16 or 17 just came out.
Okay.
So a bit more, and that's when issue 20 is when the rights revert or go to Marvel. So I'm all done. So and I'm sure I'm sure my X-Men thing is a finite run too. I'm sort of thinking about that as well.
I hope not.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's good to sort of, like, I got to keep my, like, interest level high. I want to try new things, I want to get back to, like, doing a lot of creator-owned books because I've been doing a lot of company books recently.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we will be really looking forward to it.
Yeah, whatever you're doing, I know I'm looking forward to it.
Like
I'm
the
sure everybody else
Massive,
is.
we turned a lot of people onto this book. Especially, like I said, our TA Evan just went. I mean, he literally went crazy over it. I had him write the recap, and it was turning like 5 pages, and I was like, Evan,
it's not a recap.
It was just the first trade. You pretty much wrote enough to fill another trade.
Yeah.
Then came in and ordered every single, issue. He's like, I need all the issues. I'm like, okay, because he wanted, I don't know, he wanted the back matter. Allie said. So,
oh yeah.
Yes.
But that was only in the six issues, though, unfortunately.
Oh well, we're not going to tell him that.
No, we're not going to tell him that.
We already ordered them all, so. Stop, Evan.
Yeah.
So, well, we'd like to thank you for being our second mystery interview.
Okay, great.
Quite
Thank
exciting.
you.
And keep in touch and let us know what else you're working on, and because we're going to have plenty more MOOCs and,
Yep.
and try and turn some more people onto your work. Because what happens with the MOOC, which is a massive open online course, we had to explain that last week to somebody.
Right.
Is that it kind of gets people out of their comfort zone of what they're used to reading. So it's kind of nice.
And it makes you, like, I know me, especially, when you read a story, it makes you think about it in a different way. Because most of the time when I read stories, I'm just like, I take it for face value what I'm reading. But then when you put it in the context of environment or
Right.
it just makes me look at it from a different angle.
Well, good. That's good. That's what it's supposed to do. So on behalf of all the Super MOOC students and Jason and I and Grace and Allie and Jacob and Evan, who couldn't be here, but who did a lot of work on this. So we'd like to thank you. And thank you for being a friend of the Super MOOC.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun, and I appreciate everybody's work there. So.
Okay. Well, we will sign off, and Super MOOCers, we will see you on the discussion boards.
Great. Thanks.